Hi, everyone. This is Patricia Potter with Kirkland Solutions. I want to welcome you to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Intermacs and Pedimacs monthly webinar. I guess we can go ahead and get started here. I'm just going to go ahead and introduce everybody and thank you all for joining. Today from the STS team, we have Nancy Honeycutt, Carol Crone, Banu, Emily Conrad, and Leanne Jones. And then from Kirkland Solutions, we have Maceo Cleget, Brandon Singletary, John Pennington, Rama, and Jeannie Ann Love. And then we do have some speakers joining us today from Corewell Health. We have Bill Stewart and Carrie Stirk. And then we have also on the line one of our members of the core group, Neelam. So thank you everybody for joining. We have a good webinar planned for today. We have Bill and Carrie here from Corewell Health to talk to us about utilizing index reports to gather your data out of Epic and make data abstraction and data entry a lot quicker. So that will be really exciting to hear from them. Just a couple of things I wanted to go over before we go ahead and get started. Our data entry deadline for the quarter 3 reports is October 31st, so tomorrow. So for any of your data that you would like to have included on that quarter 3 report, tomorrow is the data entry deadline for that. Those quarter 3 reports will be distributed at the end of the year around December 31st. Today is our last webinar for 2024. The next 2 webinars fall during Thanksgiving week and then on Christmas Day. So we'll go ahead and cancel those and we'll pick back up in January with our regularly scheduled monthly user group webinars. And that webinar will be January 29th at 1 p.m. Central. And then I just wanted to thank everybody that attended AQO, thank our amazing speakers and all those that attended. We had a great meeting this year in Nashville, and yesterday we had a great AQO Hot Topics webinar where we went over some highlights that were brought up during AQO. We invited back some speakers. We had some great conversations. So thank you to all of you that joined that. Just a reminder, if you do want to earn continuing education credits, you do need to view all the sessions, the live, the on-demand, and then also complete evaluations for all of those presentations. And the deadline for that is Friday, December 13th. So make sure you get that done so you can get your continuing education credits. And then all of the live and on-demand sessions are now available, and those will be moved over to the STS Learning website. Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, and that will be after November 15th, I believe. So.
That's right, Patricia.
Thank you. And then I'm going to now go ahead and turn it over to Bill. He's going to give us our presentation on using an index report for Intermacs. If you have any questions for Bill and Carrie, please use the Q&A function. So put your questions in there. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have time for questions and answers. All right, Bill, whenever you're ready.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. As Patricia said, I'm Bill. I'm from Corewell Health in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm here to talk to you about if you have Epic, this will be very useful for you information for you to know. Patricia is running the slides for me because I could not figure out how to get things to run in Epic and show the slides. So you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So you might be wondering what an index report is. An index report is going to pull up everything you need for your Intermacs forms into one spot in Epic. Next slide. What will this do for you? Well, if you have Epic, it will make your job much easier filling out the forms. It'll save you time by having everything conveniently in one place and in Intermacs order. This should help also increase accuracies when filling out your forms, too, along with helping you save all that time. Next slide. Where did this come from? I Well, I'm in the transplant department. I work in a couple other registries. There's some pediatric kidney transplant registries that have worked with Epic to help make what they call these index reports to make a job more efficient and accurate. I asked Carrie if there was such a thing for Intermacs. She didn't know, so she investigated, found that there was none, but she thought she could create one. So she got to work on that. Next slide. First thing she started with was the medication. And this is a medication list from a patient's H&P from a clinic. As you can see, there's all sorts of medications on there, and Carrie went to work with Epic, and the magic of that, you can go to the next slide. And she went to work to make it so that it pulls out the medications in Intermax's order. Next slide. So from that huge long H&P, she pulled everything out. So we got our beta blocker, our aldosterone antagonist, warfarin, aspirin, Entresto, digoxin, and torsemide were the only medications that we on the Intermax medication form. And it's kind of funny when I started, this is all I had initially to work with. So I was doing these on patients, and I would go through and just do yes, yes, yes. Then I scroll back up to the top and go no, no, no to the medications they weren't on. And I realized I can answer everything as I went along, which helped save some time there. And I was comparing medications too with a H&P to make sure things were being accurate. And there was a couple issues like sildenafil did not want to cross through at first. So Carrie made some adjustments and got that working. And Epic's able to tell whether it's just a PRN, other issues are needed for the heart failure. So that's been very helpful with that. So next slide. So now Carrie's been going to work, and she's built out almost the entire follow-up form in a report for me. Next slide. And you might wonder, if you run reports in Epic, you don't find this report under the report section. First time I went to, when I was in one of the PEDS databases, I was like, where do I find this index report? And it's under the snapshot. You got to go to snapshot, and then you would search for it under the file there. I got mine saved to the toolbar Intermacs index, so I just had to click on that every time. And now I'm going to kind of show you what things look like in Epic. It's just in a PDF file. We were hoping to get permission to show kind of a patient Epic with their name not in there, but the hospital was not for that. So Carrie made a PDF report, although we had to black out all the dates on it. But if you want to switch to the PDF report now. So once you're on that screen and in Epic, then you open up this and you get this that clicks up. Actually, when you click on it, there's three choices that Carrie has there too. There's a follow-up form, there's a pre-implant form, and I think the adverse events form, but really this is the only thing that's built out. So when you open it up, you can see the most recent provider notes. The most recent dates are on the left, which you cannot see because they all had to be blacked out. But when you open up the H&P, it's kind of nice because it hangs out on the right side of the screen, so you can reference back to that if you need to. And I can quickly read down the H&P to see what's been going on with the patient. It's got recent hospital admission, so if you might have missed a hospital admission, it's all there. If they've had a test, this patient did not have any COVID tests, but COVID tests pop up on the screen. If they've had a hemolysis event, all the hemolysis labs come up. If we scroll down, you need to scroll down a little bit farther. And there's all our hemolysis numbers. Our cutoff, as you can see, is 220, so they'd have to be a lot higher LDH to be for a hemolysis event. But if I do find a hemolysis event and I have to go fill out an AE form for that, I have all the detail right here with the hematocrit, hemoglobin, bilirubin are all included there. Then you can go on to your vital signs screen. All the vitals come here. To be honest, I have not been taking the vitals off of this much because it doesn't have the map on there. So I have the H&P that's open just to my right. So I'll usually just look at the vitals on that and ask for the map. I've not asked Carrie to add that in here yet, but I'm sure she could if she wanted to. Then if they've had a recent EKG, that will all be there if you need to enter that in for what their rhythm is. Then you got your echo data comes up. The most recent echo will show up. You will have to open that up into the echo report so you can see that. Then you'll do a left back out to get back out and keep on scrolling down because the next data that will come up will be your heart catheterization data. This person, they would not have anything useful there because it looks like it was just a balloon pump that was put in on that heart cath lab visit. But if they did have a swan in the hospital and our doctors and PAs, they chart the swan numbers under a validated hemodynamics section, that all comes into this report if that's there too. So if it's within the proper time period of your follow-up report, everything will be there needed for your right heart cath data. And we can scroll down because then we get to the medication section. So here's our medication section. We can see that they're on hydralazine. Yes for that. Got a calcium channel blocker. We got amiodarone. Got our aldosterone antagonist. Looks like they were on some Lovenox there too and warfarin. Keep going yes and no on these. They're on Entresto there too. Stitch. Then we get to our diuretic. This can slow you down if you have to do a calculation. If they're on it like every other day, so you have to figure out the average amount that they're taking daily. You might have to do a quick calculation here, but they're easy enough. They can put in 10 milligrams a day of torsemide. Then another section that is super nice. This part did not come through very well in the PDF, so I got a little better screenshot that I did later on. But all your Intermacs labs come to you in order of the way they are in Intermacs. So we start with our sodium, with our chem profile. If a lab's not there, like this person, as we scroll down, there's no, they didn't, oh, they do have bilirubin direct and indirect albumin. Oh, they do have pre-albumin. I was thinking this patient didn't have all those. Oh, it's my sample of a better shot. They don't have all those labs in there. But if there's a blank spot, so if albumin, then it goes right to white blood cell count. You can just say not done for those because they're not there. You can keep on scrolling down. And actually, she's gonna have to do a lot of scrolling here because these labs go on forever here for some reason, and it's not that much of a mess in the actual Epic part. But once she scrolls through all these labs, we'll get to our LVAD data numbers here. All right, there we go. So here's our numbers for the LVAD. We can get our flow, PI, power, RPMs, high and low are all there. And then from the H&P, I can get any, when I've read through the H&P, I've gotten how the drive line is and sounds and stuff are all right on the H&P, which would be right to your right. Then we get in our functional status, 6-minute walk flow. This person did not have a 6-minute walk to show, but if they had a 6-minute walk, that would display right there along with their trail making numbers. And if they had any other, we rarely have the, I can't think of the other parts of the functional status ones, but those are not there. But the New York Heart, you'll get off of that, then they can keep on scrolling. Wait, nope, that's it. That's all that's built out. So we can go back to the PowerPoint. Next. Really, the only section that's missing is the comorbidity section. And Carrie's working on an Epic Smart Form that I can fill out one time, and that will show up in the index report. And I'll also be able to go and change it if things change with their comorbidities or A1C goes high. I can change them to yes for the severe diabetes. If they stop smoking, I can change it to that. Because the nice thing, I don't know what other people do. I go and I look at the schedule, see who's coming in, and I go look at their Intermacs. I write down when they had their last follow-up form. I write down the new ones coming. I go and scribble down all their comorbidities. So when they come in on that day, I had that all ready to go. And once this section gets done, I'll not have to do that anymore. And the other thing that I love to do, you can go to the next slide. Oh, it wasn't the slide I was thinking of, but this is what the labs will look like in your index report. So this person had less labs done. So if a lab's missing, they did not have it done. And if something doesn't seem right, if you think they should have a lab, as always, go and further investigate. And the other thing you can do with this, that blue section on the left lower hand corner where it says more data exists, if you open up that, which you can't do on this, but it will give you some filters. So this seems to pull in data that's 3 months old. So there's a thing you can click 6 months old, it will pull that in. And so your labs are all easy there, you know you got them, they're accurate. You can go to the next screen. And this is what I'm thinking of. I love to use I don't know if anybody else uses sticky notes in Epic. You can make your own personal sticky notes. I've used these for a long time because I'd always put if somebody's had a neuro event, yes, positive neuro, so I can remember to check that on the first page of the follow-up form. But I'm starting to write down the when they last had their follow-up form, so I'll not have to be spending time going in, writing down when their last follow-up date was, because hopefully I'll remember to put in my sticky note, so it's all right there for easy reference. And then once the comorbidity section is there, that will all be there too. And that pretty much wraps the whole Intermacs report up, except the quality of life surveys. And there's no links put in there. She could put links in there if we want. I haven't had to put them in because I'm usually the one that does the quality of life surveys and the 6-minute walks. So I know if they're done, but they can be put in there. So it's just a quick click in that and you can take a look at that. And it's really made life much easier filling out these reports. There are a few limitations that I can think of. One is that if the filters, they're kind of really hard to zero in on the timeline. Going backwards, it's all right, but you can't cut out the most current stuff I've found. So if it takes you a few weeks to do a follow-up report, or if a patient keeps canceling the report and you go way back to where their window open, you can't get rid of any of that current information, although if they're not coming in for their follow-up reports, they might not be having their labs done, so that might not be an issue, but you can't get any of that stuff out of the way. And other issues are if Intermacs makes changes, how quickly can this be implemented at your center into the index report? Like I've already sent Carrie information on the changes for Coumadin and how they're going to be looking for the INR range and goals on that. So that will all eventually get built into the report here too. Luckily, it hasn't gone live yet in Intermacs. And I think it might be easier too. I don't know how when Carrie does it, but it might be easier. Intermacs moved warfarin down to the bottom of the list, so then it can be there at the bottom. Those are about really the only limitations I've found so far. I've found that I can do a follow-up report in about just over 10 minutes, which is a lot less than I could. I'm not clicking all over the place to the chart since I'm pretty much just scroll down. Occasionally have to open up things and back out of it. And it's been really very good. Because we were initially thinking about maybe doing the getting the quality of life surveys and Epic, and I'm like, you know what, work on this first, and maybe at some point in time we can start having my chart push out the quality of life surveys. But I'm really glad we went this route because this has been really nice, very helpful. Carrie's been working on some too for a pre-implant form, which it will work, I think, for the most part, but labs and stuff will be difficult to put in, especially if it takes you a few days to get to it when they're having all those labs done. If they can change filters so they can block out the most current stuff too would be nice. And I think that's pretty much it. You can go to the next slide. I think they're just the company slides here. Oh, no, it's not. I forgot I have these in here. So what does this all mean for you? Well, if you have Epic, it means a lot of hard work is already going to be done for your Epic analysts. Epic has a community library where all this information is shared. So all they have to do is find Carrie's work and they can start duplicating it in your Epic system. We do only upload to it twice a year, so this information is not there. It's supposed to be going in December, so you'll have to wait a little bit for it, but it will be coming. The next slide just shows, I don't know if any of you have ever checked out the Epic library, but if you got Epic, you can go log into it, just do a search for it, and you can find out all sorts of, we have a lot of bad things put in there. I don't know if anybody ever uses them, but there's a lot of useful information there for the analysts that can take and have things built out easier. And next slide, I think we're to the end here now. These are just the company slides. You can go to the next one if you want. And there you go. There's my contact information if anybody would like to talk to me too.
Great.
Let's see, so
Thank you
I
much.
see there's some questions that came in.
Yes. Let me see here. Okay, Bill, our first question is from Tiandra. Are you able to pull in data from Care Everywhere for outside hospital documentation?
That's a good question. My guess would be no. Let's see what Carrie has to say on that.
That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. My guess is no, but it's something I could definitely look into.
Thank you. And then she has a follow-up question. Where are you capturing your trail making? Is there a template you're using in Epic?
It goes in on a flow sheet. So the score that they put in just goes in on a flow sheet in the clinic visit. So if it's in the flow sheet, then Carrie's able to pull that flow sheet number right into the report for me.
And then she has one more question. Are you also pulling in surgical data from the implant form? That was my question too. Are you using for pre-implant? Go
I
ahead.
haven't. I've looked at the pre-implant because there is some stuff in the pre-implant form, but we haven't looked a lot at that. I mean, the pre-implant form, the medications, I think, might be a little bit harder to capture, especially just getting the diuretic dose that they're on at home before they come into the hospital. That would be one that would be tricky to get. And the implant form too, we've talked about, and Carrie's been busy with on other projects too. And there's some pretty specific timelines on that. So I don't know. I was shocked that Epic was able to just pull out the medications the way they are and as nice as they are. So I mean, maybe Epic can work, but yeah, they'll pull out like the specific timelines for the and the lactic acid when they're on bypass. Will Epic be able to do that? I don't know. Might be nice if it can. I mean, it's all charted in there, so maybe it can specifically narrow those things down.
So Bill, for like a pre-implant patient, if they're coming in like a referral from, an outside hospital or from an outside clinic, you still go through those notes to see what they have taken in the past as far as medications, their past medical history.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I'll try to look at that's the other thing of those medications because I'll try to look at past ER visits, see if they're on some sort of medication that's changed in the last year, so they can say they've been on it within the last year. So there's a lot of variables in that one, but I don't know. Carrie might be able to create something.
I think it's great. Thank you. I think there was one more question.
Yeah, there was one. I was trying to type the answer and I accidentally hit answer live. It was
Oh,
about
you're
the
good.
name of the report, and it's called Intermacs Index. So when
Okay,
your
yeah,
Epic
that's what I was going to
builders
ask
go
you
out to
too. What
look
it was going
for
to
it.
be, yeah,
Mhm.
because I was going to ask you that too. That so people know what to specifically look for in the
In the
Epic
community
user
library.
library.
Intermacs Index.
And then
And all the sections that you created, Carrie, will be in that report. So if you add on
Yes.
to it, it's just okay.
Yep.
Ashley, did you want us to take you off mute so you can talk, or did you raise your hand by accident? Either way is good. Just let us know if you wanted to ask a question. Well, thank you, Bill. What other
Yeah, so
questions do we have for him? Thank you for sharing this. This is going to be so useful. And those of you that may be joining the call that don't use Epic, if you'd like to chime in at all on, you know, if you've got something similar that's been built for like Cerner or for your charting system, you know, do you use anything similar? Bill said, Tiandra says, thank you. This is useful information. So yeah, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions for Bill or for Carrie?
So I think that was Melissa Prince that had her hand raised.
Oh, okay.
I think she had a question.
Oh, and Ashley too. Should I just, Melissa, you can go ahead and take yourself off mute and you can ask a question if you have one. Or Ashley, I can mute you. Okay. Well, if anybody else has any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A, or if you have any just questions, Intermacs questions in general, feel free to ask them now. We have time. We've got some great panelists on that can help us with your questions. And then Bill, you can see on here, he shared his email address. I'm sure you are welcome to reach out to him if you have any questions, or if your analysts at your center have any questions.
I have a comment. This is Nancy. I just have a quick comment. Thank you for sharing, Bill and Carrie, the community library. I didn't know that that was a resource that was available to Epic users. That could potentially be helpful for other databases as well. So thanks for sharing that.
yes, glad to. Say, like to help make everybody's job a little bit easier. And yet, our Epic analyst does work solely for our department. We're really lucky in that regard.
Yes, you are very lucky to have your own Epic analyst for sure.
Right, well, while we're waiting for just any other questions to come in, I just wanted to remind everybody of the resources that are available. If you have any reports questions, you can feel free to reach out to the reports email address here. And then there's the Intermacs at curso.-admin.net for questions with passwords and login troubles. And then here is both mine and Nancy Honeycutt's contact information. If you think of something after the webinar or anything that comes up at any time, feel free to email us. And any questions can go in the Q&A. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Our next webinar will be January 29th. I hope everybody has a great holiday season. I'll just wait. Oh, we've got another question from Sarah. Is there an update on the 30-day readmission date starting from implant date or the discharge date? Thanks, Sarah, for asking this question. Brandon, you're on the line, right? We've been talking to the reports team about it. So currently 30-day readmission is from implant date, and there is discussion of potentially revising that to 30 days from discharge. Am I saying that correctly, Brandon?
It is calculated that in that from the implant date for the dashboard. I will defer to Maceo to confirm on like any of the reports, if that's calculated that way as well. But I know that there's been several questions around that. So Ryan Cantor and myself have already talked about getting together to align these to start that readmission calculation from discharge date
Yeah,
across dashboard and reports.
yeah, Ryan and I have also talked about redoing everything for the reports. So I will get back with you, Patricia, about that.
Excellent, thank you.
Patricia,
Hi,
you know,
Neela.
we do that 30-day is from the discharge date, not from the implant date.
Right, but for the, right, and that's
For
how,
the 30 days, yeah, so it's from the discharge date, from the index implant time. When patient gets discharged, from that day onwards, we count that as a 30-day.
yes, and I think that's what most centers do, so that's why we're talking about revising it in the reports.
Yes.
Question from Hi Kelly. When looking at survival in our reports, does this include patients who were implanted at our center but transferred their care out of our center, or are they censored out at time of transfer? That's a great question. Maceo, do you happen to know offhand? I know the outcomes, so any AEs or outcomes are always tied back to the implanting center.
All right, great. If they
Yeah.
transfer, I believe it still have ties to the originating implanting center, but
Okay,
I will double check. Yeah.
thank you. Oh, yes. So Tiandra, so yes. So she's asking if we were able to address the inability to see patients that were transferred out on the patient list. So any patients that are implanted at your center, you can always see them at your center to, see their outcomes. And typically you can search for them within the patient list by their name or their Intermacs ID. Right now, for some reason, that's not working the way it's supposed to. So for a workaround for it, if you log into Intermacs, pull up a patient, and then at the top in the URL, if you change it out to that patient's Intermacs ID, you can search them that way. That's kind of our workaround, but we are aware and we're gonna get that fixed for you all. So thank you for the reminder. And then from Deborah, hi Deborah. If a patient transfers for a transplant but dies after the transplant, how does that count? So transplant is a registry endpoint. So once the explant for transplant form is entered, that ends the patient's time in the database. So we don't collect the outcomes for after that.
Patricia, would they still record that death on the 1-year post-cessation form?
Not if it's explant for transplant, it doesn't generate the form.
Yeah.
It's only for like explant recovery, explant decommissioned, and I might be withdrawal of care, but I'm pretty 99% sure it doesn't for explant for transplant. Any other questions? All right, well, if you think of anything after the webinar, feel free to reach out to Nancy or myself. Thank you again, Bill and Carrie, for sharing your wonderful tool you've developed. I'm sure other centers are going to be very interested. And then just a reminder, all of these webinars are recorded. So if anybody from your center missed it and would like to listen in to hear about the Epic Index reports, this will be available on our YouTube channel the next couple of days. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Everyone have a nice afternoon, and we'll catch back up on our webinars in January.